And hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We're so excited today. We are here for our next episode of On Friendship. This is a new series that we've been doing every month this summer. We are talking about, instead of romantic themes, we're looking into more sort of friendship themes, and we just thought that would be really fun. And it's our third episode, and I'm Rachel, and Alysa's here.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. So we decided to do maybe because the previous episodes of this particular podcast have been kind of unusual Hallmark movies, not as standard. And I decided to pick one that was a little bit more sort of standard Hallmark movies, but that I thought it would be interesting to kind of take a friendship look at it. You know, still talk about the romance, obviously, but and we're talking about today one of probably the most popular Hallmark movies, non-Christmas, that they've ever released. And so it'll be interesting to see Alysa's take on it. We're talking about A Country Wedding, which was released in 2015, starring Autumn Reeser and Jesse Metcalfe. And so, yeah, this is going to be kind of an interesting experience for you to kind of dive full in Hallmark movie on this one.
Yes, I have to say, when the music started and the scenery, and I was like, oh, what am I watching? As someone who grew up on Lifetime movies primarily, I was like, oh, this is Hallmark. But I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, all right. Very good.
At first, I was like, this is going to be a hard hour and 26 minutes.
Yeah, but it won you over, huh?
It did. And then I saw Jesse Metcalfe, and I was like, oh. But if it was 2015, that must have been around the time that the Dallas remake was out or had just finished. And so that makes sense that he would be in this, and that I'm not surprised after watching it that it's one of the more popular Hallmark movies that isn't related to Christmas.
Right. Yeah, I love this one. I think it is so charming. And Nancy Silvers is the writer, and she is a really good writer of romantic comedies. I think she did the very, very popular The 9 Lives of Christmas for Hallmark, which a lot of people really love. She's done some of the Murder, She Baked, which are fun. She has one called I Do, I Do, I Do, which also has Autumn Reeser and Antonio Cupo. Maybe we'll have to look at that one of these days.
Yeah.
She did another really great Christmas one, also with Autumn Reeser, called Love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is one of my favorites. Nice. And so anyway, she's just very good, I think, at writing romantic comedy. And I think that you can tell that's what makes, I think the chemistry helps a lot too, but it's the writing, I think, that really helps this movie.
I think both of them together, I think, make this movie stand out for me in terms of it has very strong writing and never felt cheesy at any point. And I think the chemistry between the actors was really believable, very authentic and genuine. And I really enjoyed it.
Yay, I'm glad.
I'm surprised or something.
Well, very good. Yes. So this stars Autumn Reeser and Jesse Metcalfe. And Autumn Reeser is definitely one of the queens of Hallmark. We actually got to interview her last year, so that was super fun. She is in a new movie coming up in August, so That's exciting. It's all summer long, which it looks kind of bonkers, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about, and she was in another one already this February, which was one of my favorites so far this year from Hallmark, called Love on the Menu, which was really cute. She has, like I said, Love and Thanksgiving Day Parade. Bramble House Christmas is a really solid Christmas movie that she was in, with some heart to it. She was in a ridiculous movie last year called A Season for Love, but she elevated it. her and Mark Blucos elevated that one for sure.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
a sign of a good Hallmark queen if she can not only help a movie in the sense of elevating it, but just enhancing the already good writing too. And so
Yeah.
it sounds like, because I really enjoyed her and I am not as familiar with her. She looks familiar, but I don't know her by name,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
do now.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, when I am in between the things I'm watching, this the other thing, that I can go
Yeah.
check out some of her entire library of movies.
Yeah. She really doesn't, like I said, even the one that was kind of terrible last year was watchable because of her and Mark Lucas were
Yeah.
really good in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Jesse Metcalf, I like Jesse Metcalf. He's kind of, a lot of other people don't seem to like him. I really, really don't like the show that he's on, Chesapeake Shores. Other people like it. It's my least favorite Hallmark property.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I don't think it's his fault. I just, the writing isn't for me.
Yeah.
But but yeah, he was in a movie called Christmas Next Door, which I thought was really charming for Hallmark, and he is in this. And yeah, you're right about him being on the Dallas remake. And so yeah, I think he's fun.
I wouldn't say he's my favorite actor. I would say that he fits the bill for sure. Attractive. He's attractive, but I was impressed with his acting. So it's something that I just didn't usually have him on my radar, or just didn't really think about it too much. And but I did. My mom and I watched Dallas because she watched the original, so it was kind of fun to watch the remake together. But I was really pleased. I thought he was you just used this word, but now I can't think of anything else. I thought he was really charming.
Yeah, I think he's charming. I wouldn't say he's my favorite by any means, but I think that he's a perfectly serviceable, charming, hunky cowboy guy.
I would certainly watch another movie, Country Wedding Renewal. I don't know, maybe there's a sequel coming out.
That's what we said.
Country Kids, Country Family. Maybe we'll just come up with a whole dynasty for Hallmark today.
He was also in Desperate Housewives. Pretty hunky on that. So there you go. And so this movie, it starts. The reason why I thought of this movie is because at the core, yes, it's about a romance, obviously, but it's really also about this friendship that started when they were young, and then kind of evolved, and then they kind of reconnect. And so I think it'll be interesting to talk about. But it starts out, you see Bradley and Catherine. The Bradley is Jesse Metcalf, who is this Grammy-winning country music singer, and Catherine is supposedly an Oscar-winning actress in this film.
Yeah, I'm like, photos or it didn't happen.
That's right.
But then again, people might say that seems surprising for Lady Gaga. But at the same time, I believe that Lady Gaga in that role is just her name alone. But yeah, this lady, I was like, you did what now? Because I felt like she wasn't a very good actress in her own relationship with with Jesse Metcalf's character.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated that they didn't make her like a total shrew. Like, like within her life, her choices make sense. Like she's
Yeah,
not just like,
absolutely.
just some harpy,
Yeah.
really. But yeah, I don't know if I buy if she, maybe she is an Oscar-winning actress in the sense of, don't get mad, but like someone like Amira Sorvino or Marissa Tomei or something like that, that like, yeah, they're really good actors, but like they kind of won in like random movies, like
Yeah, like the My Cousin Vinny, Marissa
yeah,
Tomei,
yeah,
like it just was probably serendipitous. Like it all just kind of like fell into place for that particular role,
yeah.
but no one ever would have expected it or anticipated it.
Yeah, or like Madeline or somebody like that,
Yeah.
that's like, oh, you're an Oscar winner. Oh, okay. Anyway, but that's supposedly the premise, and they're getting interviewed, and she spills the beans. Oh, we're engaged to be married,
Uh-oh.
and he's kind of like, why did you say that? And uh, the so he says, oh, we're gonna have a small intimate wedding. She is just kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about, and you can already see from this very beginning that they're subtly pretty different. Like he didn't even want to announce it. She wants to announce it. He wants a small intimate wedding. She wants something big. All this kind of stuff. And then we find out that he gets a ring in the mail to the fan club, and it's from a friend named Sarah from when he grew up, and that evidently he had been quote unquote married as a
To
kid.
her and a barn by their other friend
Yeah.
who knew how to do a wedding at 13. Good for him.
Yeah, and there is we're going to talk about some wonky parts of the timeline that don't quite make sense for me in this movie, but basically like what happened is that when he was 13, his parents died in a horrible car accident.
Yeah.
And he was feeling sad, and so she said to him that, well, why don't we get married so that you won't have so that you'll have family.
Yeah, we'll be family forever. Something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as a friendship expert,
Yeah.
what did you think about this sort of premise of this childhood friendship and like this this outreach that she makes to him, this fake wedding kind of thing?
Yeah, because one of the things is I think that, someone as coming in as someone who focuses on friendship, that I know oftentimes when I'm going into a movie that's probably going to be focused on romance. And, like I knew that is this a spoiler alert? It came out in 2015 and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it in about 20 minutes, I'm sure, in
Yeah.
timeline. But I knew that they were going to end up together, but
Sure.
I never felt like it was in your face romantic until they began to fall in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated that because at 13 years old, you do things. And she might have had a crush on him, but I honestly think it's like, she didn't say, like, we can be partners forever. She said we can be family together, which I think sort of lessens the romantic nature of it. It's not saying that romantic partners, a husband and a wife, for example, and then have kids, they're no longer romantic. I just felt like she was saying that we would be connected forever. And I like that. I buy into it because most of us, when we have friends that mean a lot to us, we don't just call them friends, they're our family. And so that's what I was thinking about it, is that she saw a friend in need and that she could see a long-term solution, and that they could be family. And like I said, maybe she had a crush on him, but that wasn't something that was dominant storyline at that time.
Yeah, and I think if you just think of how like devastating that would be to lose both of your parents, I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
That would be
it's horrible.
so devastating. And so for her to try to uh, help him just feel, even if it's just temporary kind of comfort, is really sweet. I don't know if he would be able to get his mother's ring, but hey, that's all right.
I mean, it was like legit, like an expensive ring. And she still had it in present day. I was like, didn't you think at 18, 20, you're like, maybe this kid should get his ring back? Or that when he started to become big, now they kind of indicate like his career's on fire right now, but he's already won a Grammy. So I'd imagine that this small town kid, who everyone knows because his parents both died in a horrible car accident, then becomes a musician. Like, I think at that time you might have thought about him, but they sort of present it as if she doesn't really think about him or about all of that happening until she sees on TV their interview where Catherine is like, and we're getting married. And so I forget, was it the house guy was in her house and the bank guy or whatever, because her house was near foreclosure from being behind on the mortgage. And so he was in there and he's like, hey, he used to live here. Do you know him? She's like, know him? I used to be married to him. And I was like, ooh, scandalous ex-partner. But then I was like, wait, Rachel said this is a friendship movie. And then she sends the ring back. And so I think that showcases the friendship too. Like, you should have this.
So the bank guy, he comes and makes a visit and says, I can only give you 1 more month, and you've got to pay the mortgage. And she's been running this horse sanctuary, and also this flower business. And I guess it's not cutting it. It's not paying the mortgage. That's the problem. And she's waiting for this grant to cover these horses, I guess. And she's not hearing back. And so she does send back the ring, like you said. And I guess the part of the timeline that doesn't quite make sense about this movie is that his parents died when he was 13, and supposedly he hasn't been back to the house since.
So where did he go?
So like,
and how did he own the house at that time? You know what I mean? Because he's the one that has the house.
So everything just got boxed up when he was 13 and has been, you figure what, he's like 25 maybe now, something like that. So for over a decade, things have just been sitting in boxes. What?
And it would have been a whole lot dustier. Can we say that?
Because wouldn't, I guess, would he go to private school or something, or boarding school, or what happened here? I don't know if it quite makes sense, the timeline, because wouldn't they have just the benefactors just sold the house or something, like what's going on? But that's
I think he wouldn't have gotten the house until he was at least 18, so it's like, that part was confusing, but I was like, okay, I'll go along with it. There's more to this story.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty easy to forgive. And I can't remember why he decided right then to go and deal with the house that, right then at that moment.
Because he got the ring back and he was like, I haven't been back there. And then he needed to be writing music and he was behind on his music. So he's just going to quick do it on the way to Nashville. And then he was going to write the music. They're going to get married. And then they think he was going right back on tour.
Yeah. And so he ends up there, and it actually, like, all the planning for the wedding part of this movie is pretty small. Like, they actually don't start planning the wedding until 37 minutes into the movie. So,
well, I think he goes there and he doesn't think he's going to stay very long, but then he discovers that by being back home, his ability to write his music is coming more freely. And so I think he extends his stay and then kind of has the moment back in, and I think it's her barn they got married in. And so, like, him being back in there, he ends up, like, okay, I want to have this small wedding. And as he's talking to Catherine, and they're going to have a small wedding in this barn, and then they're going to have a small wedding in Italy, but Catherine doesn't know what the definition of small is. It's like, he's like, yeah, it's just you and me and a couple people, and she's got like 7 or 8 like bridesmaids trying on dresses. Like the cake is what, 10 layers? They're like, how can we make it taller?
Yeah, I know. Like it had at least like 9. That cake had at least like 9 layers. They're like, we'll fly you private jet. Like, what's going
to make the cake? Yeah, because he's like, taking this cake over to Italy is going to be hard. They're like, well, we'll just fly you in a private plane, and you can make it there.
Yeah. But yeah, so there are a lot of scenes before they even start planning the wedding between them where she sort of teaches him how to ride a horse again. She teaches him how to fish again. They get to the 3 Musketeers are united. You have obviously Bradley, Sarah, and then Adam, who was the one who married them, who now is a pastor.
Yep, good for him. He was inspired, I think.
Yeah, but he's played by an actor named Aaron Craven, and I really liked him. I thought he was good.
He was great. I wanted a little bit more of him. I was like, does Sarah and Adam hang out when Bradley isn't there? Because like they've been friends since 13 and they live in the same town. And I was like, I sure hope so.
I know.
But it sounds like she goes to church, to his church and that sort of thing. So I'm hoping they hang out more.
Yeah. And so, yeah, he starts playing, he's able to write music there. He start to kind of get used to a more sort of quiet existence. I mean, they're really excited to have, him back because he's kind of the big celebrity. Yeah.
He has a sandwich named after him at the local diner.
And yes, and I don't know, I think all of that works really well in sort of building up this this friendship, and I think that the movie does a good job of kind of making them feel like friends first.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, because that's something that I would be really hard on, being someone who focuses on friendship. That I'm coming in and be like, this was too much, like the focus on the romance. There's no way that they were ever just friends, like it's something that's just disingenuous. But this was authentic. Like I felt like they were friends when they were 13. I feel like it never felt romantic. Again, I'll say I knew these two would get together. I wanted them to get together, but it didn't come romantic until they started truly falling in love with each other. And I think a lot of that came from he would help her like fix a fence, but she works on a ranch and she's been doing this her entire life. So she's got the right shoes, she's got the right gear, and he hasn't been home since he was 13 for whatever reason. And he only has his fancy celebrity Italian shoes, and he doesn't have gloves, and he won't accept gloves. And then you see a little bit like they're kind of making fun of each other, her probably more at him than the other way around. And he finally figures it out. It's almost like he needed to go home and he needed to be with his friends to remember who he was. And I think Adam even says, like, sometimes coming back home is a way to heal, because if he hasn't been back home since his parents died, there's a whole lot of feelings, which that was very secondary. They didn't spend a lot of time there, but maybe he didn't need to spend a lot of time there. Maybe it was just that when he left, he was no longer the Bradley from this town, that he became the Bradley, the musician, and had been surrounded by people who wanted Bradley, the musician, to succeed, including Catherine, his fiancée. Mm-hmm. And so I think what he had been missing all these years are real friends that care about him no matter if he was a successful musician or not. Mm-hmm. And that's who Sarah and Adam were. And that's what I feel like. You had talked a little bit about, like, Catherine and Bradley didn't even seem necessarily that they go together. They go together because of the worlds they were in. However, he isn't 100% adopted and adapted in that world. However, he's surrounded by people who are. So there aren't a lot of people that probably remind him of Sarah or home or whatever the case is. And so it wasn't until he actually went home that he was reminded all those things. And I thought that was really interesting part of this is that it didn't seem like during the time that he had been away that he had had a lot of good friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think
back
about
home and fishing is he found him again, you know?
Yeah. What do you think about the whole idea of sort of childhood friends and those connections that we make early on and then continue
I
on?
think with childhood friends that when I think a lot about my childhood friends, I think that there is a bond that can be a little bit different in the sense that a lot of time and distance can be put between us, but there's still that like fond memories or nostalgia that you can go back to. And so, but not everyone's childhood is happy. Like Bradley has, you know, he lost both of his parents. And so it's almost like he didn't allow himself to do that, but there's a familiarity and a comfort level that reminds you sort of like the freedom or the fun of being a child, like the I get to play outside and eat macaroni and cheese out of a box because that's what I want and that's what's good. It's not because that's the only thing I can afford because I'm an adult who has all these stupid bills and my house is going into foreclosure and so on and so forth. I think there is something comforting about childhood friends. I think we can outgrow them, um, but we still have this like, oh, this is my oldest friend. You might not have as much in common with them, but I still think that we think of them fondly. And the researcher Bill Rollins talks about those friends as commemorative friends, that we can always, no matter what, think about those friends fondly. So, except for the mean kids that tease us, you know, at the local pool or whatever.
Yeah, we moved around a little bit, so I don't have any like friends that I still keep in touch with from like my true childhood, but my friends from high school I keep in touch with more on Facebook and stuff now. But it was interesting back in I guess it was 2011, maybe something like that. I went back to Maryland, and it was just amazing because the connection with those people, like as soon as we we went to lunch and we just started talking, and it was like no time had passed at all. Like we were still, that chemistry was still there from when we were, which was really interesting. And I think I agree with you. And there's the whole there's this brilliant series of documentaries called the Up series, and they have a new one coming out this year. I'm really excited about it. But you should definitely watch it. And what it is, it's based on this Mennonite quote that take a child at 7 and you will find the man he is to become.
Is this the series where they catch up with the people every 7
years? Yeah.
I show this in my class. There's a new
you do?
Yeah, I love
brilliant.
It. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it really is brilliant. And they fall. So 63 Up is coming out this year. It's already been released in England. I'm dying to see it. And I'm saying, cool. Is this going to be the last one? There's always things. But anyway, and you think about, so he was 13 when, so that would be like obviously the second set of the movie. Kind of thing. And you just think that you are the person in so many ways that you really are as a child, and then a lot of other stuff kind of gets mixed in. And there are some parts about this movie that I don't know if I entirely agree with, and we're going to talk about like sort of her idea about love. I don't know if I completely agree with, but I'm single. What the heck do I know? But I don't know. I think that he and Catherine would have been perfectly like fine as a married couple. Like I think they could have, they respected each other, they loved each other, at least in a form, and so the idea behind this movie is that the person she understood the core of who he was as that 13-year-old boy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something deeper and richer than somebody who just sort of knows and likes him, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That it's on like a different level. But I do think that Autumn Reeser and Jesse Metcalfe have really nice chemistry in this movie.
Yeah, I thought everyone was great in it. Like, I didn't have any qualms about any of the acting or the connection. Because even Catherine, I mean, she fit the bill. I still don't necessarily buy that she won an Academy Award, but I think she fit the part as someone, like, quote unquote, what we might know as going all Hollywood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Bradley, played by Jesse Metcalfe, wasn't all the way Hollywood. And I think that their relationship would have been fine. I think it would have been more focused on their careers and their respect for each other as, artists or creative individuals. But I think that the main issue that would have caused problems for them was Catherine did not want to have a family and Bradley did. And I think that's at the point where I think he would have questioned or had concerns with the fact that he married someone when he wanted kids and she did not, because that is certainly not something that people change their mind on per se. And so, like, if he's like, well, I'll convince her to have a family, like, that's not good. And if she's like, well, I'll go along with it, but then we won't have kids, like, that's not good. And so I think being on the same page is good. And I was surprised at, like, how little he did know about Catherine. I'm like, I mean, maybe not favorite flower or something like that, but just kind of generally, like, no, she's allergic to things, buddy. Don't give her coconut. You're going to poison her.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
she's
So
allergic.
that's kind of a big theme throughout the movie, is that he doesn't know her favorite flower, her favorite flavor, her favorite cake, her favorite color, and that she's allergic to coconut. So do you think that is what was it that, trying to remember what was the
The saying.
movie? No, recently we were talking about I was talking about on a different podcast, I can't think of the name though, but that we were talking about the same issue, that, like, I don't think that it's necessarily important that, I remember we were watching, there was the movie called Sister of the Bride, and they had, the couple in that movie had gotten engaged fairly quickly. They'd only been dating for like about 6 months. In that case, they as they're planning their wedding, they realize, oh, I because her parents are against it, and they're saying it's too fast, too fast. And as they're planning the wedding, they realize, oh, I don't know this about you, I don't know this about you, I don't know this about you. Like, have we done this too fast? And we're talking about how I think a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter that much, because you can, as a couple, grow together, and that's the most important thing, that you kind of want to take that journey together as a couple. And but I think that the most important thing, I actually, even if how many kids, because that one, they found out one wanted to have 3 kids, one wanted to have like 6, 7 kids, and
Wow.
and that's, I mean, obviously important to discuss, but
at least they both want kids.
exactly, that's what I was gonna say, that's more important, because I think you can say, oh, I want 10 kids, until you actually have kids, and then you're like, oh, hold back, I only want 2 kids.
Or it might just be like, can't afford more than 3.
Yeah, or maybe you start having kids and you're like, wow, I'm really good at this is great, let's have a huge family. That's totally awesome. And I think happens sometimes. So I I'm not somebody who judges anybody by how many children they have, but yeah, I think that's the important thing, is that uh, you are on the sort of the same page as far as how you want to live your life. And so, more than the fact that he doesn't know all of this trivia about her, it's more that, does he even understand her at all? Because from the very beginning of the movie, he he doesn't seem to understand what she wants as far as a wedding.
Yeah, I have 2 thoughts about it. One, I mean, I definitely think that he should know what she's allergic to. I feel like that should come up at some point.
Yeah.
Like that to me, I'm just like, have you never eaten a meal of food together? Have you never made food for each other? I mean, that one, I'm like, well, we don't want to harm someone, right? But I
Uh-huh.
think the other stuff is easily like, well, what kind of flowers do we want for our wedding?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
and those that's where you can have that discussion. But the
mhm.
second point, which goes into line like what you're saying, and I don't know if we've talked about this. We haven't talked about it on the on friendship episodes, but I'm not sure if we discussed it on any other episodes we
Mhm.
recorded. But there's this idea that when you're in a romantic relationship, that you can think of it as a tree, and that your core values are like the trunk, right, rooted into
Mhm.
the ground and strong, and that the branches grow out and are more easily snapped, or can be broken, or they can change, and the leaves can grow and the leaves can fall off, and so on and so forth. In a relationship, you want to have similar trunks, like meaning you want to have similar ideas about children or religion or
Yeah.
politics or goals in life, etc. But the things you like, those are the branches. Whether you like baseball or you hate this thing or that thing, those are all branches. Those matter much less than
Yeah.
whether or not your trunks match. And I think that's what you're getting at, is that sort of that relationship metaphor. And I think that's fairly accurate,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
you can
that's a
go watch
really good
baseball by
way.
yourself if I don't like it. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Yeah,
we can
that's a
still come
really
back
good
together.
yeah, that's a really good way to describe it because think of my parents, they've been married over 40 years, amazing.
Yeah.
And uh and they are very different in a lot of ways. And my dad's super outdoorsy. He loves dirt bike racing, he loves four-wheeling, he loves stuff like that, like action kind of action
Yeah.
adventure kind of stuff. And whereas my mom is more of a homebody, she likes to
Hmm.
knit, she likes to read, she likes to garden, stuff like that. And so on the surface, sometimes it feels like, oh, do they have anything in common? But aside from
Yeah.
their family and their children and everything, but they actually have a similar way of kind of thinking about the world, and obviously they have the same religion,
Hmm.
and so that's the thing that matters. That's the thing that carries. Because I was kind of worried about them when because my family's just so odd in the way that we have kind of two batches of kids in my
Okay.
family, and so they were parents longer than most people are
Yep.
parents
Yep.
because it kind of stretched longer. And I worried that when they were empty nesters, that they it was going to be difficult for them,
Hmm.
but I've been so impressed with them. I think they have done an incredible job, my parents. I mean, at least from everything I can see as an outsider, I feel like their marriage is as strong now as it's ever been. They're really just doing a great job, and my mom has
Hmm.
become really serious about her painting, which I really
Nice.
admire. And she goes to this art center, whatever place, at least twice a week, maybe more. She's
Nice.
really seriously, working at it. And then my dad, has been really busy with lots of things. And anyway, I've just been really impressed with that because I think, like you said, the core, the trunk of the marriage
Hmm.
was solid, and that they're
Yeah.
two people who genuinely really like each other. My parents,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
they
They don't
really,
have to like every same activity. There's
yeah,
probably some activities, there's probably some branches they do share. But if
yeah,
like my mom and dad are similar, although my dad and mom both, one of their main things that they do, they like to read. And so, but like my dad plays banjo and he likes to kayak. Well, my mom's not getting in a kayak. So, but it's like but my mom's gone to like a bluegrass festival to hear, because my dad wants to hear
yeah,
the banjos and stuff like that. So it's like you can do things together, you can support each other's interests, but you don't have to do everything together.
yeah,
If you do and it works for you, that's great, but it's not a prerequisite to have a successful relationship. It's just remembering to support each other's activities that aren't the same thing.
yeah. Bradley, he's really bad at knowing what Catherine likes. He doesn't even know what she's allergic to, which is very unhealthy in a partnership. But I know what things I like, and I think it's very, very important to try to be as healthy as possible. And one of the things that makes me the most happy is if I can get a good night's sleep.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so I'm really excited to talk about our sponsor for this episode. It's a really cool company called Care of, and you can log onto their website, the takecareof.com. And what's really cool is they have a quiz that you can take that gets you started, and they really do a good job of kind of weeding out the things that you're not worried about and really trying to focus on the things that will help you the most. And they even have on there, like, are you skeptical about vitamins? Do you take them regularly? Do you not take them at all? And as I took the quiz, I was able to really focus on stress, trying to take things that will relieve my stress and that will help me to be able to sleep. And so that was I thought, very helpful. And we have a promotion with them right now where you can get 25% off of your first Care of order. You go to careof.com and enter code Hallmarkies, and you can get 25% off. And you had a chance to take a look at the website. What did you think of it?
It was really easy to use, and I would like that I could focus on the things that are most important to me. A good night's sleep is good for me. I have heart disease in my family, so I could focus on heart support. And one of the things that I'm always combating as a college professor at my job and working with all sorts of different people is stress. So I was able to easily answer all the questions. And then at the end, it told me some of the things that I can do, like for heart support, I can take a fish oil, or if I'm concerned about this thing, I can do vitamin D. And so all the recommendations were very specific to the things that I'm most interested in.
So they have really, good products, and I like the fact that they take the vitamins and they put them in small little packets, so they're easy for you to put in your purse, they're easy for you to travel with. And what's really cool too, and kind of goes back into something that I think is sort of a theme of the movie, sort of the organic kind of homespun kind of a thing, is that these vitamin packs are compostable, which is sort of cool. Yeah. And you can learn about these compostable packs on the website. They can tell you more about it, and they can give you all the tips if you want to do that on how to compost the packs. And so it's just really easy, really convenient. So yes, make sure you check it out. And like I said, you can get 25% off your first Care of order. Go to takecareof.com, enter code Hallmarkies, and check it out. We'd love to hear your experience. So moving on to more about this drama between Bradley and Sarah and Catherine. The one thing that I do think is a little bit ridiculous is that she only has a month to get this mortgage. What is she doing? Like mending fences and stuff like that probably wouldn't be the top priority on my list of things that I need done.
Yeah.
The mortgage was coming due.
Because if she doesn't pay, they will take the house. Yeah. But maybe it was something to take her mind off of it if she was spending too much time worrying, and that if her and Bradley were doing something together, he might be more inclined to participate versus just like hanging out, right? Mm-hmm. She doesn't seem like someone who just sits around and hangs out. She seems like she's gardening, she's doing the flowers, she's fixing things, she's taking care of the horses. And yeah, but part of it, I guess I understood it, and now I realize that I was wrong, but this is sort of what my mind did during the movie, was like, well, maybe she's fixing the house up to sell it. I just kept thinking where my brain was during it, but I wasn't right.
That might be part of it. I just think I would have a little more fire under my butt, to
find other ways to get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe she should be charging him for wedding planning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, And I mean, I guess she must have gotten a second mortgage on the house,
Yeah.
or something, because I would think maybe she might have resorted to something like that if
Yeah.
things were so bad. But maybe maybe she wouldn't have gotten approved. I don't know.
I've
But
never owned a house, so I have no idea. All I know is that she was really cutting it close with grant money coming in, when
right,
maybe there should have been some other options that she was looking into at the same time.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's all of that going on. And yeah, I think she kind of looks at Bradley as kind of a pretty boy,
Mhm.
and she's got to kind of work the Hollywood out of him.
Yeah, she has to cowboy him up.
Yeah, he's got his pretty hat, and she she
And don't
dirties
forget
it
the
up.
Italian shoes.
Oh yeah, his Italian shoes. But I feel like that it feels like Autumn Reeser, even though she's in reality a girl from like Orange County. It feels like she's from Texas, and she does a good job, I think, like making that feel authentic.
Yeah, I was like, "Yep, I believe everything you're doing."
Yeah.
We don't see her a whole lot with the horses, so who knows? She was
Yeah.
just like putting a fence together.
Yeah, it's really good. So we find out. So here's Sarah's definition of true love. She says, "I want someone who's going to love me forever, no matter what. Who wants to walk through life leaning up against me, so neither one of us falls." And then, so Bradley's definition is interesting. He says, "If you find someone you care about, someone whose company you enjoy, who likes the same things you like, wants the same things you want, after that, it's hard work and compromise."
Oh yes, Bradley, preach.
So what do you think about these two definitions?
I feel like that his falls more in line with the tree metaphor we've been talking about.
Hmm.
And I like that he talks about it being work, because I think that once we find a partner, I think we all assume it's going to be ice cream and peaches or something. Like it's all going to be good. And it's like, no, you have to continuously work at the relationship. However, even though that was his definition, I was kind of like, yeah, but have you worked on your relationship with Catherine? And then her definition, I like the part about leaning on each other, because I think the idea of support is there. I think the first part of it is sort of what we see in vows and things like that, in sickness and health and that sort of thing. Um, but she doesn't mention anything about that she would actually enjoy the person. And I think
Hmm.
that's really interesting. And I think that's the friendship part of it, right? That a lot of times people say, well, I married my best friend. That indicates to me that they have a different type of foundation than folks that might not consider their partner to be their friend. They don't have to be your best friend. But like if you don't see your partner as a friend, like I just think it adds a more foundational, like a long-term aspect of it, because even if you I think people might fall in and out of love in relationships, but even if you're out of love at a particular point, you still have the friendship aspect of it. And so
Hmm.
I think it provides a foundation. And I don't she's just looking for someone maybe to just be okay with all of her problems and flaws. And man, she was in some serious denial about her house. And it just like the very last second, they're like, and we're taking away your house. And she was like, and then she left to go to California, and then she came back. Guess I better pack up. Like she was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, she was in complete denial about that, and that is a pretty big deal in a relationship. Is financial concerns and things like that. Now she
Yeah.
was single, but I mean the fact that he's just supposed to accept that you allow everything to go straight to foreclosure. Is that a concern? I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that both of their definitions are pretty solid, actually.
Yeah.
But I think that the thing is that I, I think that he's not being 100% honest with his relationship with Catherine. I
Oh
don't think
yeah,
that
for sure.
his definition, his relationship with Catherine fits his definition. That's the problem.
Exactly.
They don't like the same things. They don't want the same things. They so that's the problem, is he thinks he has it, but he actually doesn't. And by the end of the movie, he realizes that. And I think a big key is when she's dirtying up his hat, and when they go to the Texas movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Starring the Big and Little Dipper, which is probably laying it on a little thick with that homespun, whatever.
Yeah.
They have movies in Texas, believe it or not. But
even in small towns.
Yeah, I know. But she tells him the truth about his music.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, you were better at the beginning when you're writing from your heart, and that she could hear him playing. And we do get 3 Jesse Metcalfe original songs in this movie.
Yeah.
Which I think that he's like, if you're gonna have sort of fake country music singers in a movie, I've certainly heard way worse fake country music singers.
All like Grammy winning
in Hallmark movies. I'm not saying he's the greatest. He's not going to be like fighting for Tim McGraw, he's fine.
Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born.
Right. Not quite. But yeah, I thought it was perfectly serviceable, I guess, for me.
Yeah. Well, and to bring back up the point about their definitions of love, like, as they're talking about these things, I think they're participating in behaviors that would indicate they're sort of, moving more closely and getting towards. I think it's more possible to get to his definition. I think hers might be more unrealistic. And I'm still a stickler on that first part, because, that true accept me for anything. I mean, I think that is, they're in their late 20s, it seems like, and she lives in a real small town. And so it's already a small pool of possibility of people that she can meet, And I think sort of what he's getting at is, if you meet someone, you got to take advantage of it. And so it's like, was she going to ignore him? Like, he literally came to your doorstep.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't think
assuming that someone's going to come in and perfectly fit, I think, makes it a little bit more unrealistic.
Yeah, because I don't personally believe that you're like fated to be with somebody. Like, if I'm fated to be with somebody, he's certainly taking his lazy time at it. But I think that there's lots of people that I could have a functioning, positive relationship with, and that, I don't know, that a lot of it comes down to who you decide to share your life with. I don't think there's the one, as romantic as that concept might be. But yeah, you see them go back, forth. They're planning the wedding, and she tells me, you're really just a cowboy deep down. And he talks about how being home, he's feeling connected. She says, your roots are always your roots, which kind of goes back to what you were saying. I do think that there's a little bit of this idea of sort of this idealized small town that's not a reality. Like, I grew up in a small town, and it was great, and I love the things, but the idea that, I don't know, it's definitely like a real small town is like a lot more fractured than you ever see in the movies.
Yeah. And I also feel like saying your roots are your roots doesn't give anyone any room to grow or change or evolve based on other experiences or living in other places. And I think he was missing, maybe not necessarily Texas when he was in LA. As I said before, I think he was missing friends that were looking out for him versus looking out for his career. That everyone around him was very Hollywood. He was kind of the way there because, I think he said, like, my manager got me this hat, or, those sorts of things, that it's the things that he's been given and he has gone along with. But I think that he hasn't had connection back with other people who sort of communicate back to him who he is. And so when you have people that are all Hollywood communicating around you, I think it makes it a little bit more difficult. But just to say that he's completely that small town, I think is untrue given all of his experience since he left it when he was 13.
Yeah.
That his experience in Nashville, I'm sure he feels connected to Nashville because that's where he's written music. I feel like he might be connected to LA in some ways because that's where he was first successful. Whatever the case, like all that can be our roots. And so that I was like, well, yeah, I think he was missing his friendship. And I think being back home, that he was missing out on some things that he grew up with and the people that cared about him. But I kind of like that people have the opportunity to grow and evolve and enhance the roots that they have,
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And so then they go to one of my favorite parts of the movie. They go to hear this band playing that might play at the wedding. And I just love this scene with them dancing. I think it is such a sexy, just the chemistry is so palpable.
Yeah.
And you have Adam kind of watching, and he's like,
he's like,
no,
this is not good for business because he's getting married to someone else, and now they're dancing. Wait, no, now they're kissing. Okay.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. After I first saw this movie, I totally downloaded the song that they're dancing to.
Oh, really? Nice.
Because I liked it so much. The scene, it's so good. They're dancing to a song called "The Face of Love," and I just love this scene. It's very unusual. I mean, 2015 maybe not as unusual for them to have this kiss, but certainly now it would be very unusual in a Hallmark movie. But just that, he says later, I just got caught up in the moment, and you totally buy it. And I love how that whole scene is staged. I think it's brilliant.
I like that scene too, but I was like, hey, Jesse Metcalf, you're this movie. People have phones these days. That's about to get back to your fiance. And then the only picture that got back to him was them standing next to each other. And I was like, they kissed! And she doesn't even know it.
Yeah, the paparazzi is really falling. They're not doing a good job here.
That would have been the money shot. Hello.
Yeah.
Not that I condone that, but I'm just saying, I was like, oh gosh, this is about to take a really interesting turn.
Yeah.
I thought Catherine was going to come in swinging or something,
Yeah, supposedly in this town, Adam can't even give his sermon because everyone's so enamored with having Bradley in the audience. He's like, you really just, he's like, everybody please paint their houses purple, all this stuff, because nobody's paying attention to him. Yeah, that they wouldn't have snapped a photo of that kiss is probably ridiculous, but oh man, it's such a good moment. It just works, I think, really well.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And then she's weirded out by it and she trucks it out of there, and he still thinks everything is okay, but the band has brought him up on stage to sing, so he is almost completely forgot that they came together.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so good, because Adam's like, what are you doing, Sarah? I love that whole scene.
Yeah. That's why I was like, we need more Adam.
Yeah.
He needs to come in here and let them know what's going on.
Yeah. And so then the next morning, Bradley meets the bank guy, and he finds out about the mortgage problem. And he goes over to talk to her, and she's like what I would call angry gardening.
Yeah.
She's picking the flowers.
A very aggressive flowering going on right
now. That's right. And I think that scene is very well written and very well done, because she's upset with him because of the kiss, and they're kind of going back and forth, and then you also get a scene with Catherine, who sees the photos, and Lauren Hawley is her manager, whatever. It's just you better get down to Texas right away.
Yep, and she didn't see the actual
she didn't even see the kiss.
It wasn't the photo of the kiss.
Yeah, that's right. And so then the Sarah says to him, says, I'm gonna shoot you straight. You can't marry Catherine, man. You don't love her. And they go back. She says, "Why'd you kiss me?" And he says, "I just got caught up in the music and the moment." And then he says, "You are afraid to love too much ever again. Well, you know what? Love is scary. It is terrifying to put your heart out there, but you do it anyway. Do it in spite of the fear, because a life without love is just half a life. And you don't get married because you like the same things and because you live similar lifestyles. You get married because you can't stand the thought of not being together. You get married because you love the other person with your whole heart." And so she definitely has like a really kind of romantic view. I mean, who doesn't have a romantic view of love, but it's not the most pragmatic view.
Yeah.
But I kind of remember a friend of mine was in her late 40s, and she had gotten proposed to by this guy, and she had accepted, and I was just kind of shocked because I just didn't feel any chemistry between them as a couple. And I don't know, we were sort of talking, and the more that she was talking about it, the more I felt like the reason she had accepted is just because she was like, well, I'm old. I don't know if I'll get another shot. It was kind of the thing. And I remember telling her, I'm like, you deserve to be Twitter pated. You deserve to be in love with, like you should, like, I don't think just because I'm 38 and single doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, okay, somebody proposed, let's get married.
Oh yeah, I'd
let's
rather
take it.
be alone than just be with someone to be with someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, but some of the stuff like what you just read, who said that again? Was it
This is Sarah? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to remember because I was going to be like, if that was Bradley, because my thoughts are, again, much like with his definition, this is not the way he's living his life. And so I think that might convince him, like, that's who you need to be with Sarah, because, like, okay, you don't have anything in common with Catherine, but you haven't been around her for weeks and you don't seem to care.
Right. Yeah.
That should be a sign.
Yeah. And that I don't know, I do think that you shouldn't settle.
Exactly.
You shouldn't settle just because you have, and like, yes, I believe that you could make most relationships work.
Yeah.
But also, there's just no reason to settle. It'd be better. I mean, maybe if you're talking back in like the old ages, yes, you had to get married just to survive.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, no, things have changed a bit.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
And so if you're, especially in my faith, when we get married, we get married for like time and all eternity. Like, this is your eternal companion. And so, like, I'm not wasting an eternity of somebody that I think is just fine.
Yeah, or it's not something where you're just going to be like, nah, they'll do.
Yeah.
Like, no. An eternity is forever.
Like, I love in Sleepless in Seattle when Bill Pullman's character is like, marriage is hard enough without beginning it with such low expectations.
Oh, snap.
And I think that that's really true.
Well, I kind of feel like, in a way, that because Bradley's character has been around these Hollywood folk for some time, that marrying Catherine is almost like a transactional deal, in the sense that it'll help both of their careers. But otherwise, I'm like, I don't think either one of them are truly in love with each other. And then if you go in and you go further, they don't know anything about each other. They don't have anything in common besides that they're both in the business. And so, yeah, like, if anything, even if he wasn't going to marry Sarah and he just came back to, back to his home and his friendships and things like that, and write music and play locally, I would have been okay with it, because I think in the end, he shouldn't have married Catherine. Now, it's a Hallmark bonus that him and Sarah did get married. That was going to happen, but I would have been okay with no relationship, in the sense that he just needed to find what was true for him, and it wasn't Catherine. That's for sure.
Yeah. And she's also kind of talking about the fact that he is afraid to open himself up because of the pain of losing his parents, which is
Yeah.
something that you definitely carry with your whole life. If you had
Oh,
lost
for sure.
your parents at 13, that would
Mm.
be brutal. And so Catherine shows up, and he tries to kind of do all the same things that he had done with that Sarah had done with him. So he
Mhm.
takes her fishing. It's a disaster. And Catherine says he'll forget about this place. He has a gift he needs to share with the world, which is kind of interesting. I feel like that that is one thing Catherine kind of appreciates. I think maybe a little bit more
Mhm.
than Sarah as far as his music.
Yeah.
But
YouTube is everywhere, though, folks.
yeah, that's right.
He can share his magic through YouTube. No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
and
You know,
you do
I understand touring is probably where you make the money.
yeah, no, it absolutely is. And uh but I feel like Sarah is grounded enough that she'll be able to support him in all of that, and
Oh, for
like
sure.
secure enough in their relationship. And there was actually a movie on the network called A Very Country Wedding. I actually got to interview the director this last
Ooh,
month.
cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that impressed me about that movie is kind of a similar story, uh, but I liked the fact that so they're getting married, and there were so many spots in Very Country Wedding where I thought, oh, here's going to be the moment she's going to think he cheated on her or whatever,
Yeah.
and she's going to be upset. But they did such a good job of she absolutely like knows who she's in a relationship with, and she trusts him 100%. And I think that would have a similar thing with her, with Sarah, and with Bradley. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think she's the type of person who's gonna be like, "Oh, who's that photo you're with?"
Yeah.
And who's
Yeah.
that person you were singing with? Are you getting like? She's not. She's gonna be confident in who he is and who she is, and she's going to be able to handle, I think, this lifestyle.
And I think because of their foundation and friendship, she can kind of even tease him about it. Like they might
Yeah.
have like a jovial back and forth, you know,
Yeah.
banter about it, if anything.
Yeah. And so yeah, there's the so then you see Catherine, she finds out about the house, and she says to Sarah that she's got this connection, this Hollywood connection, that takes in horses or something like that. And so she basically says, "Don't be here at the wedding. Here's a ticket. Go and do your thing." And she's
And it's possibly also a job on a ranch in California.
mhm. And she says, "A friend of Bradley's is a friend of mine." And then you see a little conversation between Adam and Bradley, and he says, "How do people look when they're in love and know they've chosen the right person?" And he says, "Are you just grateful for her, or do you love her?" Which I think is
Adam's asking all the right questions, folks.
yeah. And so then the day of the wedding is coming, and we see that Sarah has put yellow roses in the arrangements because it's Catherine's favorite flower. So she
Yeah.
already kind of learned more about Catherine than Bradley ever learned in their
And you
relationship.
know how she did that? She asked her a question. Oh,
Right.
it's so simple.
Yeah.
Hey, Catherine, what's your favorite flower? A yellow rose. Oh, look, yellow roses.
Yeah.
Like Bradley, all you got to do is ask people some questions.
Yeah. Like it is kind of ridiculous when you think about it that like their managers would really do everything. I don't think
Yes.
that
He was like, I don't know what her flowers are because my manager sends them and then her manager receives them.
yeah. I mean, I've interviewed enough people in Hollywood that I feel like they still will buy their own flowers on occasion. I don't know.
I was just like, what? Sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, then they have the wedding rehearsal, And Catherine's just there, like, taking selfies and, like, hanging out.
Someone from, like, People magazine up in there taking photos and stuff.
And Sarah's, like, crying. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. But I like that they got the chandelier up, and I mean, it's pretty nice little wedding they've thrown together.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sarah goes to the bank, they foreclose on the house, and then she leaves to California.
Mm-hmm.
We find out they actually didn't foreclose on the thing, and that Catherine, in the name of Bradley, bought the house.
See, people in relationships make big decisions together.
Yeah, and I think he legally would have to.
Yeah.
Like, if he's buying the house, like, I think he would have to sign stuff and things, but whatever.
But she's an Academy Award winner, Rachel.
That's right. And she tells him, well, we can build a real house, a house worthy of people like us, which is a big trigger. People like us. That's very...
I don't like that.
Yeah. And so, whenever you're tempted to say people like us or you people.
Yeah, no, bad idea.
Always bad. Bad. And so, anyway, he decides that he wants to break up the wedding. He asks her, do you love me? And he says, we understand each other. We want the same things. And he says, I care about you. I do, but it's not enough. I'm sorry. He throws his hat, and then he angry rides his horse. It was so
I forgot
exciting.
about that. Yeah.
We got like angry gardening. We got angry.
Very aggressive in this small Texas town.
That's right. So she comes back from California. I assume she's probably been there a week or two. And these dogs, we named these dogs in my podcast with the Sanders sisters that we rated the best Hallmark dogs.
Okay.
And these were one of the highest in our rankings because not only are they very cute and lovable, but they literally can, like, give her directions to the barn. Like, you know how to
follow us this way, lady.
Yeah, they're very
You can't contain them. What's going on over here in the barn?
They're leading her through the house, outside.
About to be the start of a really romantic gesture or a horror film. You decide.
That's right. And they open the barn door, and there he is. It's pretty exciting. The whole town is there. And he says, well, we need to renew our vows.
That was cute. That was cute. Right? And then in the proposal, would you like to marry me again?
Yeah, so cute. We got married as kids, and I think that was our one chance at true love. And she says, that's romantic, not realistic. I agree. It's rare, but I won't settle for anything else. So cute. So cute. And then he says, mid-chip, blue, horses and dogs, white lilies, this ranch, and these people. And she's like, that's all my favorite stuff.
Those are all the things I love.
That's like such a swoon-worthy moment.
Yeah. He even knew ice cream. He remembered from when she was a child.
Yeah. And they'd eaten the ice cream earlier too in the town, and so that was really, really cute. I do think that there's something so attractive about a man who remembers little details like that.
The minor details.
Yeah. Like I just remember a couple of years ago in my church, one of the guys, he remembered I had told him just briefly that I was going to be swimming in a race, and then I hadn't seen him for quite a bit. And next time I saw him, he was like, "Oh, how did that race go?" And I'm like, "Wow, that is such an attractive
remembering."
Yeah, you got a boost there.
Talk about something small that can make people feel important. And no, it's great. Everyone should do that.
Yeah, it really is. It is such an attractive quality that when you talk to people, they remember oh, so how's your, how's your podcast, or how's your
Yeah.
whatever, like that they remember stuff about your life. And so anyway, at least for me, if anybody ever wants to win big points in my book, if you remember those little
Yes.
details about me, that's very
That's how
attractive.
to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So then he proposes, and then we end the movie with their wedding, and it's just really sweet and fun. And so there
It
you
was
go.
it was good, but they literally was like, they ended it and then it was like credits. I was like, wait, there's no, like, can we see them working on the funds together? I was just like,
Yeah, I guess you could have had him like on the horses riding, like,
yeah, it was
or
just
kind
like,
of.
and done. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
I wouldn't be surprised if they filmed an ending scene and then, but just with time because of TV.
yeah, they were just like, that's it. You all knew
Yeah.
what was coming, and it came, and it's over. Goodbye. No, but
Yes.
I enjoyed it overall. I thought I liked the friendship part of it. I liked that it wasn't romantic until they started having romantic feelings instead of forcing it
Yeah.
immediately. That's what I really enjoyed about it, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of my favorites. I think they have such great chemistry. I think the writing is really on point, and I think both of their perspectives make sense. And it's not just there's sometimes when it's this kind of thing where it's a little bit illogical of like why why are they either not married or not together, or the
Yeah,
barriers keeping them apart feel so artificial, which can still be fun.
yeah.
But I don't know, I just love this one. And I even think that Catherine's character makes sense. Like, she's,
Oh, for
like you
sure.
said, she's not a shrew, she's not just some ridiculous person. So we have a couple comments on Twitter about it. Caroline Richardson says, I loved how it flowed so naturally with their feelings for each other. It's my
Mhm.
favorite Jesse role. It's definitely the best I think he's been, for sure. And then Whitney Ann Scott says, A Country Wedding is my favorite Hallmark Channel movie. The chemistry was amazing and it flowed so naturally. This might sound weird, but flowed so well. It literally almost felt like a real movie to me because it felt like the way things
Aw,
happen could really happen.
aw.
And yeah, and then Trisha says, This is one of my favorite Hallmark movies ever. I love Jesse and Autumn together. I would give this movie a 5 out of 5.
Oh,
And
snap.
yeah, 5
Even
crowns.
higher than Cookie Crawl?
Yeah, evidently for Trisha. um, and yeah, I think that they're all kind of talking about the flow, the natural
Mhm.
flow, and I think that's really true about it.
That's, yeah, because I think some of those things can be arbitrary and forced, and I think that especially when friends become romantic partners, it's something that is automatic, like, assume that's the case, right? That there's no way that a man and woman can be friends without having romantic feelings, and so I like the natural flow here because it wasn't like an assumption that they were going to be together, that it was an assumption once it was clear that they had fallen for each other. And that's how things should work, right? It shouldn't just be like, oh, there's a man in this room, we must have romantic feelings for each other. No, no, that's not how it works.
Hmm. Yeah, and and it goes from kind of maybe a little bit of awkwardness at the beginning to uh, the relationship builds
Hmm.
pretty well through the conversations and through the scenes and through the everything. I think it works very well. And so I'm actually really high on this as well. Like, if I'm judging something for what it's trying to be, I feel like it's pretty flawless. For
Hmm.
There's very few little problems I have with it. And I mean, even his singing is fine to me. I don't.
I mean, it's not like, it's not anything that takes away from it, you know what I mean?
No, it's fine. And so I kind of feel like I'm 5 out of 5 on this one.
I
Is
don't
it?
remember what I scored a Cookie Crawl on.
I think you were
Back and
like,
listen. I might have scored that too low, but
yeah,
I was
well, I think you were at least a 4.75. You were pretty high on it.
okay.
You were
I'll
pretty high
give
on it.
this one a 4.9.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, it's really really good. So, yeah, and I think that it's just not as light and fluffy as some of the other ones. So I appreciate it. And I think what could be really interesting if they were going to do a sequel to this movie, I think if you had her have to move to California, that would be actually,
go to a ranch.
Yeah, I think that if you did sort of a California, I don't know what you call it, maybe California baby or country baby or something, but having her to have to then change a little bit more, I think might be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Hallmark, get on it.
Yeah, that's right. So there we go. That is this month's episode of On Friendship. This one was really fun to talk about.
Yes.
And we'll figure out, we'll announce. We haven't really decided what we're going to do for September. So we'll let y'all know. And let us know what you think of Country Wedding, what you think of some of the topics we talked about as far as childhood friendship and also when things move from being friendship to being romantic and how that can work and some other stuff that we talked about. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section or on Twitter. And so, Alysa, where can people find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Dr. Lisa Lucas on Twitter and Best Forever's Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And my webpage, AlysaLucas.com, is still under construction. So hopefully by the next episode, it'll be fully functioning.
Great. Yeah, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes and YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So make sure to check that out. And if you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, please give us your ratings and reviews. If you're listening on YouTube, please go thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that as well. And consider becoming a patron. It's really fun. We have a lot of fun conversations. All opinions are welcome about not just Hallmark movies, but everything else. And so check that out. All that information will be in the description. We also have our merch store, which is a lot of fun as well. So that's also a link down below. So check all that out. And thanks again. And we will talk next month.
Bye.
Bye. This podcast was brought to you by Hallmarkies for Hallmarkies. For more information about how you can leave your mark on Hallmarkies, visit hallmarkiespodcast.com. Link in the description.